Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great podcast for everybody out there, my friends, and it's talking about knife defense, using a knife, defending yourself with a knife, and the folks that I have here with me are the best that come with that here in the United States. If you had to tell me, give me top 5, top 10 knife experts, these three will be up in the top 10. Okay, and that's hands down, and that's just the way it is. I got with me Grandmaster Bram Frank, Grandmaster Peter Freedman, Guro Carlito Bonjoc, and we're going to touch base on the reality of self-defense, the reality, what happens when a weapon is used, like an edge weapon, a knife, or what have you. You defending yourself with a knife, and what happens now and consequences. So, my dear brothers, how you all doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Peter, I'm sorry I couldn't make it up there.
You would have loved it. We had a big turnout. They were all asking for you.
I'm sorry. It just that, I haven't been well, and it's been a rough time. Next year, I promise to try to make it happen.
It'd be great to have you here.
All right.
We'll get up there, and you guys have to come down this year. Every single one of you is part of the World Pugilist Hall of Fame, which is coming around shortly. And we have a great crew just of great illuminaries in the martial arts that are going to be inducted. We have Guru Gurudev, which has the Sikh martial arts, going to be inducted, and we have many others that are going to be there. Just the names are great. But again, they're following the tradition that you guys left behind. Excuse me. But coming down to today's theme for this gathering, here in Laredo, in this South Texas area, a lot of people don't realize it's very much a bladed culture. Everybody's carrying some blade or another around with them on their pocket, just kind of similar like to Stockton and in Florida and out up on the East Coast, out in the boonies, where a lot of stuff in the East Coast and in other cities outside the South, you won't see people carrying a knife in the how can I say, the metropolitan areas. You kind of see it out in the rural areas. Well, here in Texas, people carry a knife everywhere. The majority that you're going to get, or you're going to see somebody carrying a knife, is pretty high. So with that being said, it's very easy to grab it, whether you're working, you're not working, or out in the field, the oil field, or work. Somebody has a pocket blade at all time, and I'm wearing shorts, so this is the one that I'm carrying. So but when it comes to that, people altercations occur. People can come at you with a knife. People can pull out a knife when you're in the middle of something. So it escalates those values. How would you all state to somebody that is just in a typical self-defense situation that leads into punching or kicking as a higher end, and then all of a sudden somebody pulls out a knife? What would you tell somebody like that? how would you prepare psychologically as well as common sense? There are about 4 questions in one, but
You just want to see if you confuse a bunch of old guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, mental preparedness, man. First of all, I like to think that spiritually, that I'm okay there, and so I know who I belong to, and I know where my blessings came from, and so to me, every human being out here is my brother, and so so I think we always should be thinking about preserving life, and then so the thing is this, what's really important is that many of us have families, and so the thing is that if we get killed or we go to prison, it takes us away from our family, and so that's not a good thing, and then the other person has a family, and so I think being prepared to fight is very important. You must be ready. I mean, if there's no other way out, I mean, you got to come with your bestest, with the mostest, man. And but nevertheless, we need to prepare ourselves to de-escalate. So there's always ways to walk away. I'll give you an example. I live in Stockton, California, and so I part of my life I grew up in the Philippines, so I've seen a lot of things, and over there in the Philippines, everybody carries a blade, and a lot of times it's a long blade, and then I'm in southern Philippines, and then so there's a lot of people that carry guns, and so so I was around weapons, growing up, and so it wasn't strange to me. And then when I was young, uh, my father was just kind of different, man. He knew he knew me well, and he trusted me that I'll make the right decisions. And when I was about 16 years old, my father gave me a pistol, and we talked about when I can use it and when I can't use it. And so um, so I was around that, and but I always knew that that I'm gonna de-escalate when I need to, and so I had to put that in my mind, that I have to be ready for that, and so fortunately, I've never had to kill anybody, and I had to defend myself, but it just, and many times I've de-escalated situations. Yeah, so I think we need to be prepared, but we have to learn to de-escalate.
No, I
Discipline.
agree with Carlito. And one of the problems with today's world is so many people teach what I call Dungeons and Dragons reality. They think they can go out there and chop the other person up to little pieces and everyone's going to declare they're a hero. When we're in uniform, we're under a microscope these days. As a uniformed, be it security officer or military, we still can't do whatever we want. Matter of fact, they hold it against us. When you come down to a civilian, some of what people think they're doing, when I watch people, the first thing they do, they practice how fast can they get the blade out and how fast can they poke someone's eyes out, cut their throats, disembowel them, puncture their organs. And I go, what's that? And I go, well, I'm learning to defend myself against an attack. And I go, you understand that as a sworn officer, I'm allowed one level of force, as you were saying, for de-escalation. I'm allowed one level of force higher than the bad guy. as citizens, technically we're only allowed the same level of force back. And some of the people say, just start out and do this. As soon as you sense the guy's going, go for him. It's what you were saying, Carly. As soon as you do it, we have a problem. You know, someone else isn't going to see that. And I tell people, you know, people are going to go, that was excessive force. What's excessive? Well, all the ones are talking about make sure I kill the bat. I went to this group. I won't say who it was. I've known of them. They invited me to their seminar. They chanted about cut throats, disembowel, punctured through their head, severed their spinal cord. And I went, you have some kind of caveat about what you're teaching, right? That this is traditional or some kind of war art thing that you may not do that. Oh, we can do that. I know you can do that, but you realize you may not do that to another human being. That's what bad guys do. And if you do that and say, I was trying to defend myself, no one's going to believe you in a court of law. You know, it's excessive force. And that's why, you know, I know people can see me. That's why all my tools come from the Philippine stuff, is that I do impact. I make the only full force continuum. You know, I can hammer first. I can try to not have something, you know, sort of the Valley Song idea that I can then go to like little snap cuts or something. I don't have to be lethal. And then even in a lethal force mode, I can do less than lethal and de-escalate, because people don't teach, as you were saying, de-escalation. And, you know, one of the things that I'm sure all of you do is like doing firearms work. If someone's not willing to shoot and kill someone, I refuse to let them deal with a firearm, because, as you were saying, a mental set. And I look at you and go, if you're not willing to actually cut and hurt someone, you got to be careful. And, you know, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I look at people and go, if I make your hands not work, I win. So I tell people that if a guy attacks me, if I can access my tool or I can harm the other guy's hands, you know, the typical old thing of defang the snake thing, just done a little better, you know, shut some of it down. We stand a better chance of defending ourselves, because I know people who thought they defended themselves. They were ruled that the criminal action was okay to defend themselves against the attack, and they lost everything they owned in the civil action because of the damage they did to the bad guy. And you just got to look at all the bad guys who've become saints in today's world. So I think any kind of response where a tool comes out at us, we've been trained from the old days how to react, and legally, a lot of times it's not allowed. You know, as you were saying, we have to be prepared. Granted, I would rather go to jail than watch my family die. But as you have said, and I'm sure Peter's nodding his head in the background too, that if we defend ourselves and end up in jail for the rest of our lives, that's not a win-win. You know, so I think some of the stuff that Brother Paul talks about, you can go online and people teach you how to maim and kill people. And that's not what I'm not sure what, you know, I try my best to tell people, stop the hand, stop the tool. And all the stuff about run away. Well, if you're out with your family, you can't run away. You know, and I agree, I'd rather not be there. But I think they've made self-defense, especially if we carry a knife and use it back, we have to do non-lethal, less than lethal, biomechanical shutdown response, because anything else will come back on. It's like if you do a real nice sweep on someone, you stop them, they hit their head on the concrete or on the curb, they're still going to come back and go, oh, Professor Paul, do you know what you did? Well, I didn't mean to. I just, you know, tried to stop them. I swept them. Well, civil courts don't care about that. You know, the bad guy, we have to have respect. So it's a difficult question you brought up. And
Peter,
yeah.
what do you say about this?
Well, I have a little different outlook than they have. My outlook's a little different. I teach hand-to-hand combat. I teach people how to cripple and kill, but they have to use their mind. I don't teach that to everybody, and I don't teach that online. I don't let people videotape teaching that. If you get into a situation like I had a guy when I was a teenager try to cut my throat with a straight edge razor. He was mentally ill. And I was walking with another friend, and had I not been situationally aware, he would have took my throat out. So I did one of those moves where it goes up over your head, checked his elbow. I was ready to throw hands with the guy. My friend was saying, look in his hand. I looked in his hand and he palmed a straight edge razor that you shave with, try to cut my throat. So my friend and I, we pulled out blades and we invited him to come back. He didn't. He just kept walking. Now, this guy was 6'6", about 300 pounds. He's a big dude. He killed 2 people downtown Boston after that, wounded 8 others. They put him in the mental institution because he was mentally ill. They couldn't arrest him. He killed a nurse after raping her. So what I do is I teach people different ways to shut down the body, the brain, the heart, how to cripple people's arm, break an arm, a leg, dislocate a hip, a shoulder. I don't advocate people to fight. I tell them to run, use your words first. If you can't get out of it, do your best to get the hell out. But if you're going to fight, fight to win. And if you got a guy coming at you with a blade, you got to do something to kill him, because what's he trying to do to you? He's trying to kill you. Now, it takes a while to get to levels like the people on here to be able to fight somebody and not kill them with a blade. That takes a lot of skill. For me to be able to fight a guy, he's actually trying to kill me and he's strong, practices a lot with his blade. Now I got to defend against him and try not to kill him is almost impossible. But when you're teaching,
I don't know. I just think if he's reaching for you, his hands are right there. You can't do, what I teach my teams. I teach them in combat, take out the hands first. Because maybe said to you told me, said, make them not. Because if I can kill you, you can kill me. That's a tie. Ties work in hand grenades and horseshoes. That's why I came up with biomechanical shutdown. I shut your hands down.
I do too. In jiu-jitsu, I do a Japanese jiu-jitsu.
I'm just saying, I think in a way you're saying the same thing. I eliminate trying to kill the guy because it puts me in a spot of if I can kill you, you can kill me. I always back up in my guys because I also can't armor up my hands.
Right.
Which why I have my teams go after the hand.
What I'm saying, if you don't have anything in your hand, you're walking down the street with your wife and you got your daughter, and now you have a mentally ill individual trying to kill me. And he's going after my daughter or my wife. I'm taking his life. I mean, and then I'll deal with the law afterwards. Now, it seems today like the laws work for the criminals. It seems like they rather help a criminal than a victim. Well, and that's what pisses me off. Is you defend yourself.
I live in California, man.
You defend. Well, I've seen it many times where the cops come at, the cops and courts come after the individuals defending themselves, and the criminal gets off scot-free. And I got plenty of examples that I could talk for the next 3 hours of all the examples of all the criminals. A lot of my family are law enforcement. And my nephew, one day I was visiting Boston, he comes over and he goes, "Uncle, how you doing? Here's my phone. Look at this gun. Do you like it?" And I said, "Yeah." I took it off a guy. Wait a minute. I arrested him. Look at this now. Look at this gun. You like that? Yeah, I took it off the same guy 3 months ago. I said, "I thought you put him away." I did, but they let him out. Wait a minute. He goes to his phone again. Look at this. I took it off the same guy. 3 guns in like 6 months off that same guy. Now, then he tells me we pulled over a guy, a World War II veteran with a 1911 gun that he had in the Army, licensed to carry, and his license was expired by a week. They arrested him and they put him in jail for the full year. The guy didn't get out. He said he applied for the license on time, but it didn't come. It came a week after he was in jail. The license came. The laws are crazy. They're cuckoo. So if you got an individual, what I'm saying, Mr. Frank, wait a minute. If you have an individual and you're training an individual, first you have to do a psych evaluation on who you're teaching what to. I do that with everybody. I don't teach everybody the same thing, because if I got an individual that I think is going to misuse or misrepresent me or misuse the knowledge I'm giving them, I'm going to curve what he gets. But then you got certain individuals that are wonderful human beings, loving human beings, caring human beings who would never get in trouble, but they live in a violent neighborhood. I grew up in a violent neighborhood. I was stabbed, I was shot, I was whacked with bats. My friends are dead. They've either been shot in the head or they got their throat cut. It's if you don't know how to handle yourself and you don't know how to kill, I mean, you can preach nonviolence all day, but when it comes down to it, and you got an individual coming at you with a bat or a knife or machete is big with MS-13 in the neighborhoods that I lived in, you got to know how to do it. Now, I agree, you shouldn't kill anybody. It's against the human law to kill anybody. But sometimes if you're fighting 2-3 guys and they all got blades, what are you going to do? I barely got attacked by one guy. I always got attacked by, 3 or 4 guys. That's why a lot of my students are off the streets. I have a lot of street people that I've taught. I mean, you look at some of my students like Raul, Indio, or Rico, or some of the other guys. These guys are badasses, but they're humbled individuals. They can control what they do.
The questions here is not, because I've seen all the students of everybody, and they're very much capable. All our students are. And in today's world, everything's shifting.
Yeah.
And what's shifting, and if we go back and we can agree on, there was a prophet by the name of Moses that was given 10 commandments.
Yep, I remember him.
Commandment, it tells one thing, I should not kill. But you know what it tells it 2 times? Don't commit adultery and don't go out with your neighbor's wife. They probably said it the 11th time. So that was a lot more important than do not kill.
It says, yeah, but actually it doesn't say you do not
what
kill.
I'm getting at now is a lot of situations, and I'll take Texas for one, because each state has their own laws on carry. In Texas, you can carry any size blade, fixed or folding. So you can carry a samurai sword if you wish to, a Bowie knife, you can carry it on your person. Now you can carry openly or concealed a handgun. I tell people, if you're going to carry a handgun, go get a concealed handgun license. Just because sometimes we have, just like we have good and bad everything, we have good and bad badges as well. And what happens here in this situation is a lot of times a person can get into an altercation of what I've seen, of what I've been gathering around, what people come and tell you. They get into a situation. The person breaks a bottle, comes at you, and the person grabs a knife, starts fighting him, and somewhere along the line, the guy from the bottle tries to kill him because he broke a bottle. When you break a bottle on somebody, that means you're going to do damage to the other person. And I think we all agree on that. And the other person turns around and just by a flick of luck, cuts him. The person bleeds out. Now the person's facing murder.
Yeah.
Another situation, the guy was in his car, gets out, and the guy stabs him 3 times in the back. Turns around, somewhere along the line, they kind of struggle. The guy was bigger than the other guy. Falls down, and while he falls down, he impales the knife onto the other guy. Okay? While the other guy was still holding. The guy wasn't trained. The guy was it was a fluke of nature, how it happened. Guess who was the one that was taken to jail after he got stitched up at the hospital? The guy they were trying to rob.
Yep.
The other guy was left in jail and released. So we have a paradigm,
Brother Paul,
switching the negative.
But that's why I tried to invent these tools. So my first thing is I ball peen hammer you, and I can, if I want to, do a less than lethal cut. And if I have to and touch you, then it's open, and I can still de-escalate. Because if all I can do is pull out a live blade, that stuff happens. So as what Peter was saying, when I first come out, I guarantee I've had people break bottles. I've had people and I've broken their sternums. They've broken their hands. Why? Because I'm smaller than all of you, and I'm old. So, I use my
You're not old.
Hammer.
You're not old.
Yeah.
You are not old.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is everything is changing now. You have the cat.
I get it.
Yeah. The cats now bark like dogs, and the guard dog meows like a cat.
I know,
so
but I agree. That's why I tried to find a way that we can beat the guy, break him, and not cut him, because I may think I did the right thing. The juries don't, and the wokies don't these days.
Right.
With the very fact that convicted criminals with open warrants, when they get zapped these days, are being named heroes and saints, and those of us stopping them. I had just actually been out in Ferguson and St. Louis teaching those guys when that event went down. And I said, they said, Bram, if it had your tool, but it didn't matter. Michael Brown with his stupid hands up. There were no hands up. They attacked an officer responding to a call in his car. You're talking about, I grew up, I didn't talk back to an officer ever.
Neither did I.
Not my thing. And I watched today, they talk back, they fight, and they go, look, force one is my voice. You're not supposed to respond to me. You respond to me with voice, I'm going to put my hands on you. You can't. Actually, that's the rule. One level of force higher. You pull out a tool, well, my SOP might be, all I've got is a firearm. But we're always in the wrong. You take a martial artist like us, all of us know we grew up, take out the bad guy. I know ways to take out, but I also know that's why I sent you, each of you guys have seen my tools. Yeah. I came up because guess what? In panic, ball peen hammer. I'll just ball peen hammer you till I do whatever, because I had to find a way to give us some kind of force option that we didn't, even though ethically we killed the bad guy, we're not allowed to. And the scary part is, like we're doing with Rittenhouse, he had every right. He's already clear of all criminal charges. They're putting that poor kid through a civil case because he shot a bad guy who tried to kill him. It's absurd. I know all of us try our best, and I think all of us want the same thing. No matter what kind of tool or lack of tool the bad guy has, and I'll say it right in public, I don't care. I pull out a tool even if the guy doesn't have one. I want a mechanical advantage, and like I said, I've broken hands and ribs and whatever to shut them down, but they rigged the system against us. Even if we act in God's way, if we do to preserve our family's life, our friends' lives, or an innocent life, we're held as if we're the bad guy for doing what we were trained is supposed to be acting within God's will to protect life. It's so strange.
No, I agree with every single one of you what it's saying. I think we've all been taught in one way, and we've all seen the dangers that are out there. All of us have been in conflicts, and all of us have felt the blade. The first time I felt the blade, I was 15 years old. Here's a nice little scar to prove it.
Yeah.
Then right here, there's an ice pick from going across. Guy hit me with an ice pick. Here, me being the stupid guy and doing, we were bouncing, and all of a sudden I didn't see the blade. And all the time, I've never seen a blade. When the person's trying to hit you with a blade, trying to cut you, you don't know what it is. So I've always been a tickler to having a good guard. That's why my respect for every single one of you, and Carlito has been a great teacher for that. Is you have to be, you cannot telegraph. I'm not for telegraph. You can't make big noise. But what happens now, and I'm gonna retract to our conversation we had before. When we were growing up, our parents, our fathers, or what have you, would take us to the person that knew how to fight the best in town. You're gonna go learn with him because that guy right there is the one that everybody's afraid of. He's the one that when he walks down the street, everybody says little whispers. You see that guy over there? They whisper about him in the corners. That's the guy you want to go train with. So that's how I grew up. In today's world, you type up knife defense and you got guys stabbing each other, jumping on top of people's, pulling out spears and hitting them 10, 20 times. And you're like, where'd you get this? What are you talking about? You're going to be running around with a spear? You're going to be running around with a knife and 15 knives everywhere else. I can barely carry a knife. And then these guys are running around with 10 knives. Well, what are you going to do? Number one, they're going to lock you up in a padded room if you walk outside with all those knives running around. And if you tell them it's your free will to walk around with all those knives, they're going to think you're nuts unless you're trying to make money on TikTok and try to frame up a police officer, which is totally wrong in my book. But what happens is you look in mirror and in YouTube and everybody is cut the throat, pull his head back. The only thing they're not teaching is how to scalp somebody. You know, and you're like,
You
oh,
know,
okay.
brother Paul, they may actually be doing that on YouTube if you look carefully. I know. I actually saw one how to. Yeah, I saw one that was showing how to roast people.
Oh my God.
I mean, I went
Disgusting.
Yeah, of course. And that
You know-
part of going in to do stuff. That's why I said I went to this big open knife seminar. I was invited by guys I've known of and haven't seen for a long time. And they look, and Shashir was with me, and Chad. We got invited as guests. And the first thing they do is said, "Look, you stick into the guy's eye orbit and rake
Yeah.
across and rip out both his eyes. Then you cut his throat. Then you sever his spinal cord. Then you drop low and cut it." And I'm like, "Yo, what do you think you're doing?" And they're chanting as they do it, and
Yeah.
they're teaching children to do it. They were teaching children, and I went, "Are you guys nuts?" He goes, "No, this is okay." I go, "It's not okay." I mean, personally, I don't care about the bad guy, but in reality, because of the laws, I have to. And the bartender, I work with attorney Peter Roman, who is a prosecutor. Brother Paul's gotten to meet him. You guys probably see him in the pictures with big, tall, bald guy. Been with me 30 years. Former prosecutor, and then for the last 30 years, he's been a liability injury attorney. So he runs everything I do as to what can he defend in court. He saw something and goes, "Bram, that's not defensible." I don't care if that's what I call Dungeons Dragons romantic. I get wanting to kill the bad guy, but the stuff they told me I could do, the stuff I read about, the stuff I wanted to be a romantic knight in armor, chopping up the bad, I can't do it.
Right.
Physically, I can do it. I may not. Peter, I know you could rip the guy in half. I know
Yeah.
what you could do with blades and sticks. I know what Carlito can do. Guess what? If we do it, they're gonna hold us up and go,
Yep.
with all that training, that's what you did. And
You go to prison.
and you and I and Carlito and Brother Paul, a jury of your peers. If it was a jury truly of our peers, they'd give us a medal. They're not going to be our peers. Don't be a lifelong, be a bunch of wokey people who never read the newspaper, only listen to mainstream media and go, "Oh, you did what to the bad guy?" Which is why I've had to spend those last 4 years making, when I did it with Paladin, biomechanical shutdown. What way could I come up with? And people would laugh at it and go, "I'm trying my best to find something that fits within all the martial arts stuff we were taught about defense and defending that I still have the right to live and be with my family."
Right.
And I agree when you said it, when Carlito said it, when what Brother Paul said. If I had to go to jail to protect my family, guess what? That's what God's ordained. But back to bartender rule before I forget. The bartender rule says technically, if you, I, Paul, or Carlito teach someone to do something, they go to court. I didn't know any better. It's like giving too many. We can actually be part of conspiracy to commit murder or mayhem, and we can go to jail. And Peter's verified. He goes, "Bram, I wouldn't go after you. The guy who did it. I'd go after you. I'd go after the guys who taught them. I'd go after the schools and go, you are responsible." I went, "That's absurd, but that's what the law lets."
Yeah.
You guys know Ernie Emerson, right?
Yeah.
So when Ernie first came out, and I know Brother Paul knows when he came out with the first karambit, with the wave,
Yep.
we're at SHOT Show, and I went to see him before he went to my booth. And he's got these big video screens up showing what to do. And Peter's just staring at it. Peter Roman. And he goes, "Ernie, if I were you, I would shut those videos off and not offer them for sale." And Ernie went, "No." And he goes, No, I know what you mean. But you supply the tool. You're showing a means to do it and encouraging people to do it. You realize this is conspiracy. I fit all the components of conspiracy to commit murder and mayhem. And you have a big company. I'm going to go after you. If someone misuses your knife, I'm not going to just go. I'm going after you. You got the money. And Ernie just he shut all the videos off and put on his regular JKD videos playing in the background. And that's why he quit selling the videos in big publishing, because he went, "Oh my God." And all of us started. So that's why I try so hard. I don't want someone to come back and go, what you said, it's not in my videos, it's not in my tapes, it's not in my books. And I don't care if people say I'm the wimp. I will not, as Peter said, I will not teach a lot of stuff to people because I don't want to be responsible for the mayhem.
Right.
I know Carlito, he's nodding. Peter, we're responsible because it's hard to figure out who people are. And
But you see, it's vividly open to the public on
yes,
on social media, which is fine. I know that people are trying to sell themselves and brand themselves and so on and so forth. But I go back to how the art that I'm known for, which is savate, right? And how it was taught in France and how it was done in this brigade system, and how they would teach you, and until you got to this level of silver glove, then they'll teach you how to defend yourself against the other guys that were doing it.
Right.
Because you live in Paris, you live in a city that has 4 or 5 million. You don't know what the other guy is training on. So once you became a silver glove, they will teach you other things, other techniques for you to be able to defend yourself at the other guy. Then as you grew up, and then you became professor, then they'll teach you the lutte parisienne, the grappling, to defend yourself against the saboteur and the other guys that were coming at you in that fashion. But wow, what was doing that? What was going on there? They were gaining your trust to teach you how to eliminate somebody and turn somebody off. In today's world, hey, a guy went to MMA school, and the first thing, you knock the guy in the ground and you start hitting him in the ground. The guy goes, I beat the guy up. Now he's facing charges. Why? Because it's no longer self-defense.
But what you said and what Carlito said,
now it's assault and battery.
Yeah, but you said it right. When Peter said he controls who he teaches and doesn't want to put videos out, Carlito was saying you got to watch spiritually with you. You're saying, and you picked on the one point. All the stuff that we try to hold into ourselves and be ethical and honest about and answer to God about, there's people all over the internet teaching the most. I watch this stuff and they say it's based on criminal actions. Watch what we can do and how much damage we can do. I'm like, oh my God, the free information stuff is disgusting because there is no human being saying don't do this. And I watch people bragging about how much damage you can do to other people. And, bad guy attitude. And of course, the bad guy is not being held responsible for his actions. And if we do our stuff, limited, or bad guy stuff to the bad guy, the scary part is we're in a lose-lose. As you said, they hold us responsible.
Yep.
Most of the self-defense laws across the board kind of have the same definition, might have words changing a little bit or phrased differently from state to state. But most self-defense laws say if you are threatened, you have the reasonable manages to defend your means of defending yourself. If you can't retreat, you have all the means to defend yourself or the defense of others. And then it's broken down into a bunch of other stuff. But basically, all the penal code on self-defense says that. So if you're backing up, I can't retreat, and the guy comes at me with a knife, and I hit him across the head with a brick, and he goes down. That's it. But if I hit him across the head with a brick, he goes down, and I keep slamming the brick on his head as he goes down, that's a different story. Understand? And that's where this thing gets into a different system. As long as you have the reasonable in your head fear of threat on you, then you can continue moving forward. But if you couldn't retreat, then it's a whole thing. Now it can change. I understand the ground and pound. We're grounding and pounding people since first grade. But what happens is when you take somebody down to the ground and then you realize the guy has a knife in the ground, then you can ground and pound them. But if the guy's unconscious and you send them into La La Land, it's a different story.
Well, actually, the new laws are, if you have the right to defend yourself against a criminal action, you might win that part. But if you use an illegal tool, it's no longer legal. They can now charge us for using an improper tool. And even if the criminal action, I was allowed to defend myself with the new civil laws, then it becomes a jury's decision. Did I use too much force? Was I too mean to the bad guy? What did I do? Did I exceed what I was supposed to do? Did I know I would cause harm? And I'm like, what does it got to do with the criminal action? But it's no more. Now I have to deal with not only the criminal action, but a civil action that follows. They've made it very hard for us. And you've all seen, all of us in the last few years, good guys cannot do what we're trained to do. And that's what I said, like George Floyd. I trained a lot of those guys. Guess what? He was on his shoulder. He's a criminal. He had open warrants. Go down the whole list. And all of us know, especially Peter, who does jujitsu, if you're choking me out, I can't tell you I can't breathe because you're freaking choking me out.
That's right. That's
I
right.
have asthma. So when I can't breathe just because I have asthma or fentanyl type stuff, I go, I can't breathe. If you're choking me, anyways, but actions that were by SOP for Minnesota back then, they were allowed lethal force chokes because I taught there. I grew up there. Guess what? The SOP didn't matter, although it was because it was bad. We're the bad. And growing up outside of New York, and you grew up outside, in Boston, guess what? We were in the same area. And when I moved to Vermont and always I get it. Carlito, he knows because I've spent lots of time living in the Philippines and I still do in Cebu. Guess what? I get it. They've handicapped us.
Yeah.
And Brother Paul, when he talks about Sabat, he learned in some ways, not only a dock art, but a gentleman's art. There's ethics. We all have ethics in the middle of war. They don't. They hold it against us. I am dumbfounded the last couple of years. Again, pardon me for saying so. It's why I came up with a ball peen hammer, for my tools. What do you got that Bramp for? Because I freaking panic and I hit you till your hands break and give you an attitude adjustment because I'm scared to cut you. So I came up with a Waka Waka that I can reach out like a Valley song and give you a little attitude adjustment, snap cut. Why? Because if I do what I was originally want to do, I may not survive the encounter legally. I may survive physically. That's why I have no answer for you, Brother Paul. I know you wanted us to come up with an answer. And in the last couple of years, I'm dumbfounded. I'm not sure anymore.
There is
it's
no
tough.
it's no answer. It started since Cain and Abel, right? But then it's continued ever since then. In Luke, Jesus tells his apostles to sell their cloak and go buy a sword. So when self-defense is self-defense, we need to understand that self-defense is needed. I understand what Carlito said. We all have families. And a long time ago, I made a decision. If I have to give myself up for a loved one, then that be it.
Yeah.
And when people need to understand that, if I have to give myself up for one of my daughters, my son, or my wife, or somebody that I love, I don't care what crew they're in. I don't care it's on. And if you're coming at me in that type of aggressive manner with a threatening objective, it's on. It's either you, me, and one of us is going to go meet St. Peter. And that's the way it's going to be. And so a long time ago, I got that I've understood that I had already decided on that. So once I decided on that, then I've lived happy and very peaceful in ourselves. So I always look for peace. But you always have individuals that are going to they think they can get away with the law. They're under the influence. They're coming to so and so forth. You might have a brother-in-law. Some people might have a brother-in-law or an in-law that likes to drink a little bit. And all of a sudden, when they get into liquid courage, they become very abusive with people. And they run into the wrong person. And then all of a sudden, guess what? That guy's in the ground with busted lip and a busted nose. And it's your fault because you knocked the shit out of him because he was being rude to everybody else. Yeah. And so sometimes stuff like that, I've been through that. I had an in-law that was very abusive to an ex-mother-in-law of mine, and he got his ass kicked. He met the wrong person. He was in the wrong level of the food chain when it came to that. And guess what? I became the asshole. Well, I don't mind becoming the asshole if I'm defending somebody,
Yeah,
right?
no, I get it. Well, you've seen, why did I come up with the crimp? Everyone laughed. Guess what? I came up with the crimp so I could extract vengeance on the bad guy and not go to jail because I can't cut him, and you've seen it. I make it work. I make the tool. Why? Because, as an officer at times, guess what? All of us, we don't want to, any of us, we don't want to run into a ball peen hammer. I hate that. And I had to come up bang because I got to do something. And I'm like I said, I'm smaller. I may not be smaller than Carlito. We might be the same size, but I'm definitely smaller than you and Peter. So I had to come up with something that I can hammer people with and get an attitude adjustment. And I carry it all the time because guess what? I'm going to use it, and that's why when you're laughing, I put the breaker cutter on it so it's legally a rescue tool, not
No,
a
it's a
weapon.
great idea. That's a great invention you have there. That is.
Do you
That's
have
awesome.
one? Do you
I
have
got
a
you
crimp?
sent me like two of them. I got a trainer and I got the real one. But I wanted
but
to get another one. I
do you
couldn't
have this?
figure out how to do your website, the Chinese one you made. I
Yeah, do
want
you have
that. I want to buy it.
Okay, but do you have a crimped? This is
No,
the impact rescue tool. I did science for long. It can't cut you, but
no, I
grabs.
don't think I
It
have
grabs
that one.
fabric.
I got a
Peter.
training one and I got the real one.
Okay, so I want to send you one of these, Carlito. Make sure that Brother Paul sends me both your addresses. I'm going to send you each a crimped.
All right. Okay.
It's the world's best dulo e dulo. Okay, I think you saw it. It can't cut skin, but it grabs fabric.
Yeah.
You can
Woohoo!
remember and even the breaker cutter can't cut anything, but I can cut flex cuffs. I can cut wire. Of course, take out windshields and everything.
The best part of it, you can pop a long neck bottle real quick with that head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Does it work?
That would work. That
Does it
would
open
sell a
beer?
lot of them.
Yeah. And that's my contribution back is with all my training, rather than trying to invent tools that we can all use to give a physical attitude adjustment to some of these jerks out there. I had, you guys may know there was somebody he's on the a police force. He used to play professional football. I don't have permission to use his name, but he played middle linebacker, strong upper body, gimpy knees. So he didn't play football for very long, and he joined the police force. So he's doing undercover work. He's got one of my first crimps with him. He's doing undercover, comes out of the bar, and there's a biker pissing on the side of his truck. It's an undercover truck. He turns around, and just what Brother Paul said, the guy broke a bottle, immediately came right at him, and this gentleman panicked, pulled out his crimp, broke the guy's hand, and then I did mention he played middle linebacker, professional football. Broke the guy, drove it, broke the guy's sternum, and he just dropped, caught him in the throat as he went down. Called me up later, and so the chief went, "What a great tool!" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it worked really well." Brother Paul's had it, and I know you guys have plays with it. We do stuff, and we're gonna do some more crimp stuff. Carlito, I'm telling you, it's the best dulo e dulo I could come up with. It's a dulo e dulo on steroids.
Yeah, man.
And you
Everything's
can pinch with it. You can come up and reach out and grab them. Like Pac-Man, waka waka and stuff. So that's my contribution back because I don't know how to answer Brother Paul's question. Besides, I decided to sit down and make better tools for us that we can use what we know and all the stuff that we all do with Dumog, and not only Dumog but that Peter as well as jujitsu. Wally J. Look said, "Oh, you can do small circle jujitsu with it." Remy said, "Oh, you can do good things at Dumog." And Billman went, "Oh, you can do pressure points with it."
Yeah.
And hit pressure points and rub them. I said, "Yeah, and it's a mini side open expandable baton." So
We call it a
this is the
Yawada
best thing
stick.
I ever invented. Better than my knives. And granted, I make training knives, but I'll make sure you each have one because this is the cool tool for me.
Yeah.
This allows us to beat the snot out of the
No,
bad.
those are great tools, but and another great tool is YouTube, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because all those things that everybody's posting up there and doing, as a good instructor, which I know each one of you are, we're looking at those things in there, and we're just learning how the masses do something for us to be able to teach our students how to defend.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That to me is the best learning tool that's ever been made, because everybody's posting how they're going to fight and how they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
And all you have to do there is, you know what? That's how you're going to do it. Okay, let me start preparing myself
Well,
for
yeah.
your
Brother Paul, that's the other side when you said anybody has access, but it also means all of us instructors have access. Go, really? That's what you would do. That's how I'm able. You guys don't know. I call Brother Paul time and complain what I see on the internet. Stuff going, oh my God, look what I just saw. But we both laugh because it's just what you said. We go, if that's what they're doing, what would I do to stop it? But you're right. It's everywhere.
How do you, Brother Carlito?
What's that?
How do you see things?
Well, man, it's, I don't know. Everything's upside down, man. I mean, when I was a kid, a bad guy was a bad guy, and good guys were good guys, and good guys were allowed to defend themselves. So I remember I was listening to a conversation, and somebody broke into the Filipino lodge, and I hear the cop telling my dad and the lodge brothers, next time that happens, and you got to take him out, make sure you drag him back in. And you can't give that kind of advice anymore. It doesn't work, And but I agree with Peter. It's just I sometimes you just gotta. It's just ugly things have to be done. I guess the best way to put it to me is that that I think the other person needs to know that you could be dangerous.
Yep.
If they know that you could be dangerous, and I'm not saying you have to advertise it. I'm just saying that they should look at you and say, "Oh, this guy could be dangerous," because then they're gonna think twice. I don't know.
They can't tell you what color is Washington's white horse.
Yeah.
You think they have enough sense because your eyes, Peter's eyes, Brother Paul's eyes, even they should be able, as you said, to look at us and go, ooh, wrong person. But they're idiots out there.
Yeah, you're right.
Ego.
Yeah.
Their dicks or their vaginas are bigger than their brains. And like I said, they don't know. I mean, there's no common sense. And what all this wielding stuff where they punch each other, shoot each other, just do whatever, throwing people off on train tracks for the hell of it to see if they get run over. People are nuts.
They say criminals have rights too. They lose their rights when they come after you with a weapon, in my view.
I agree.
And the thing is, I agree what you're all saying. If you hurt the criminal, you're going to go to jail. I get that. The thing is, I know what I'm going to do. But how do you get this across to a guy that can't defend himself or a girl that can't defend herself? We send them to Bram Frank to get his Bram.
Yeah, put a tool in their hand.
You better make more because I'm sending everybody there.
Yeah, my grandma said, Bram, I can't do this because she was 86. I said, Grandma, can you use a hammer?
Now
I'm
it's
a Russian farm lady. I said, good, be a Russian farm lady. If nothing else, hammer the guy.
And what's happening in schools now, you got kids that are being bullied left and right.
Yeah.
Bullies are going to snap. Every one of us agree that the best way to deal with the bullies with a right cross right in the middle of the mouth. And that's your own. And if they beat you, you guys respected each other. And if you beat him, everybody's going to respect you. But both ways, everybody's going to respect you. That's just the way it is. And then you have the other type of bully. The bully, you tell them, you better stop. I'm going to whack you. And they're going to back down. And they're never going to do it again. Then you have the one that continues in life. The one that you might have told them you're going to kill them,
those kids
and they go hide, and they're always doing something behind their back to get you. And that's what we have a world of. Look at
the people just killed each other over sauces at McDonald's.
Yeah.
16-year-old kids stabbing each other over who's getting the sweet and sour sauce? Are you kidding me?
I seen two people when I was growing up. I was a teenager. I was standing right next to these two guys, and they got into a knife fight over an orange. They were stabbing each other over an orange. Two teenagers right in front of me. I'm like, holy crap!
I get that. We all grew up in a pretty dangerous place, you know. And people here in Laredo say it's not dangerous. Really, it's not.
I know.
You know, you look into the inside prisons and they tell you that Laredo is one of the most dangerous parts of the United States. And you guys are telling me it's safest in the top 10? From where? Unless they're dodging the numbers or docking them or doing whatever they like to do with the numbers. But what I'm getting at is the kid defended himself. Guess what happened? He defended himself after they dropped off the school bus. The bullies kept on bullying him. He beats him up somewhere along going home from the school bus stop over there. The next day, the school police arrest him for assault.
Yeah.
Because they're part of the student code of conduct. I go, really? So that's how you get the school shooters. You keep picking these guys.
Yeah.
They don't know how to defend themselves. They're going to snap. They're going to grab whatever they want, and they're going to go spray everybody that comes in. That's how it happens. And the teachers say, no, it's because they're at fault. No, it's the kids are they're not behaving. It's the parents' fault. No, it's your fault because they're with you 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay. In my school, I get kids that are pretty bad kids. They're rough and tumble kids out there, most of them. And then I got a bunch of kids that are very wimpy, and they're mixed together. And guess what? They're shaking hands with each other.
Yeah.
And they become friends. And then guess what? And they become friends for life.
Yeah.
And you can't get these kids in your school. You're telling me that to make friends? Well, I get them once or 2 hours a week, and they're becoming friends and brothers here. And you guys have them 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and you guys still can't make them shake hands? There's something wrong.
Yeah.
Well, of course it is. But the other side of it is that all of us are unique in a way that we took martial arts to our soul, and we bring people into our soul. The schools don't do that. And no matter what anyone says, we're like the last knights of the round table. We still believe in ethics.
Yeah.
And ethics doesn't mean we don't kill the bad guy. That's what I was also starting to say, Brother Paul. In Hebrew, it does not say thou shalt not kill. It's a mistranslation. Thou shalt not commit murder. Murder is unacceptable. They knew you have to kill the bad guy. You might have to kill someone. You're just not allowed to murder someone. But
yeah, but what I really like about the 10 Commandments, it only says it once about fornication. It says it twice, man, adultery, and then don't screw your neighbor's wife. Hey, buddy, don't do that again because they're going to kill you.
And then after that, they said, don't murder your neighbor because he's messing with your woman. They knew it was going to happen. So they said, you're not allowed to murder your neighbor. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I did.
It's crazy, but all in all,
here it is, Bram. You got that from Mosey.
Get in my way.
I love it.
I taught the 10 Commandments. I taught the commandments of steel in Israel for 15 years. You know, it's a night fire, night camp.
You got to come to New Hampshire and teach it now.
Yeah, I will. Carlito, where did you grow up in the Philippines?
In Mindanao, Zamboanga del Norte.
Oh, okay. Because my family were Novo from Toboggan.
Oh, okay.
In northern Cebu. That's where Doug Markaitis from. Felix Robles.
Yeah.
Turns out Felix is actually Nova's second cousin.
Ah, yeah.
And Doug is one village away. And Bobby Tabata, who's my kuya still. Bobby's from Cebu.
That's my dialect, man. I'm Cebuano.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. So, I haven't come back since COVID, but people don't get it. All of us who have either born there or we've put ourselves there, for decades. It's a different attitude, and also that, and I'm a good Jewish kid out of Israel, and I have no use for terrorists or bad guys. And
Oh,
I've had
no.
to know about, but
You know, and I'm gonna tell you all something here. Not because of the thing that I love fighting, okay? Because fighting is what I've been doing it for a very long time. Not that since I love it. The reason I teach is because I love this community that I live in.
Yeah.
I love the
yes,
people that are in there. And there's a lot of people here that are very, not wimps, because I'm going to divide a wimp with a person that's weak. A person that's weak can be a person that's fragile.
Yeah.
Can even have a big Arnold Schwarzenegger body, or can look like Danny Padilla, you know, the giant killer.
Yep.
And they can still have a weak mind where they're not going to have that courage, or they haven't been taught that courage to move forward.
Right.
And then you can have a guy that looks like Arnold and just a wimp, has the power and everything, and doesn't matter what you give him, he's never going to get courage. He's always going to be the little whiny Winnie the Pooh looking guy. You know what I'm saying? In the mindset. And that's the way I break things into it. But the reason I teach and continue teaching is because there's a deficit of men. There's a deficit of that culture that is protective of people in their communities now. There's a lot of people that say, well, I'm a police officer. No, you're playing police officer. You're not a police officer. You know, oh, you're a SWAT. No, you're playing SWAT. And we saw that with Uvalde. You're playing SWAT. You're not a SWAT guy, because a SWAT guy would have gone inside, orders or no orders, and taken care of business.
Yeah.
So in martial arts, I don't teach play martial arts. I teach the disciplines of Savat, Kempo, and of course Capoeira, and what Carlito has taught us, which is inside the Kempo as well. Why? Because this is for somebody that wants to continue moving forward, wants to learn how to do that, has taken that step and saying, you know what, I want to be the protector of the family, not only financially, but the actual protector of them, and teach them. There is a lack of men. There's a lack of masculinity. There's a whole shitload of males out there. And a male, everybody's born a male. But I'm going to put it like this. I bought a little Boston Terrier, and they said, we'll give you the papers when his testicles drop. And I said, what? When the testicles drop. Well, that means he's a male. That he's a little man, he's a little dog male. You know, it's that he's masculine enough. And I go, what do you mean their testicles don't drop? I told the vet, and he goes, no, there's a lot of dogs that the testicles will never drop, but they're out there breeding, so they pass on bad genetics. That's exactly what we have. We have a lot of males out there that are breeding and passing on weakly, pussyfooting our nation. And we need masculine men now. We there's nothing wrong with a masculine man that's going to open the door for women, that's going to put the umbrella underneath the woman that he's walking with, that's going to take that knife or that blade in case he's going to defend that woman. We're lacking that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about machismo. So for people out there that go up there and cut and paste crap, they can do all they want. You know, those panty sniffers that I call them. You know, and we need to understand that is being lost. And we were all taught by a masculine man that was a teacher. I know every single one of your all's teachers, and every single one of your all's teachers were men of honor.
Yeah.
Men that would stand up, and you can see them in the crowd walking by themselves. You know, and that's just the way it is. But in today's world, things have changed. It's an ugly feeling, and if we don't stand up and say, you know what, it's enough, we're losing it.
I like that song. It said, where have all the cowboys gone? Remember that song?
Yeah.
Where have all
There
the
you go.
cowboys gone?
Well, they went to go drink Bud Light, a lot of those cowboys.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, you know. And you're like, and some of those guys could fight, you know. Some of the old Romans and Greeks and Assyrians, they were a band of those types of men, you know, and they would fight. They were bad in battle, but there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is it's this type of demasculation. Everything's toxic.
Yeah,
you know. MMA is not toxic, but each one of us teaches it's toxic masculinity. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
You know what I'm
I
saying? Yes, we can all
well
agree with
also all of us we represent be it self-defense or self-offense. The very fact that we are martial artists and we believe in people's rights, we are a threat to the new world order and that kind of thing because we don't need weapons.
Right.
I mean, we'll use weapons. They don't want strong people like us because we stand up and go, that's not, my grandparents brought me up. It will never happen again.
Mine
And I
too.
tell people
Yeah.
they don't it'll never fucking happen again.
Yep.
And people go, what do you mean? I said, I've had to pick up body parts in Israel and other places where I have no love for any freaking jihadi extremists because I've spent my life picking up the pieces. You know what? I have no use for them. All of that. 9/11 stuck. I don't care what anybody else, these people going conspiracy this, you know what? 9/11 was a bunch of Islamic extremists who had multiple attempts to get rid of us and thought they were going to do multiple strikes. Guess what? Never again came true again because it changed my focus about what I was going to do. I don't think they don't want people like us running around. And I find martial arts, as Brother Paul saying, who are wimpy. They're woke. They're willing to do the sport part. But if you talk about defending people's honor, defending our rights, defending our country, we are the most unique government in the world. We have the only constitutional republic. We technically are not supposed to have a standing government. We're the government. You come from New England with me. You know. The Gadsden flag was our original flag. It wasn't the Marine Corps. Don't freaking tread on me. We stood up to the world's largest army and we beat them. And then it spread for the rest of it. But Brother Paul, you're right. They're breeding us out. Someone just did a post of us playing as kids, cowboys and army stuff, and then showed the kid some men underneath it, boys, with the perfumed hair and the makeup, going, what happened to us growing up? We used to be allowed to have guns. They allowed us to be men and want to emulate men and be warriors and be protectors of our family. Now, I don't know. Anyway, I'll never give up defending. I'll never give up teaching people.
Yeah, man. You know what? It's just we're spoiled here in America, man.
Yeah.
And because you know what? If things go bad, like in most parts of the world, everything goes back to normal. Men's gonna be men.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a place for strong men. And that's when they need us. And but when things are peaceful, we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think people have forgot. There's an awful lot of us who are not making waves, Carlito, and I think there's actually a whole bunch of us. The quote unquote the silent majority that they always joke about, that we're all being pushed too far. That we will stand up, and you're right. They only want the warriors and the people to protect them, like that woman who just got beat up, that Democratic congressperson, the local who spent her whole time going defund the police, get rid of them.
Yeah.
We don't need anything. And she just got carjacked and beat up.
Yes.
Oh my God, where were the police? Well, you freaking got rid of us.
Yeah.
You didn't want us.
We have good police officers, not knocking them down. We have some good ones in there,
Yeah,
and
we do.
we have to protect the good ones.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the bad ones, we have to help the good ones get rid of the bad ones, because there's a lot of bad ones out there that a lot of the good ones are hushing up because they're afraid of the retaliations within inside the departments, and we have to the good ones.
Yeah, but look what they just did. Look at that. It's Illinois and California that have both said, and we're going to take illegal aliens who are never, they've never been vetted, and we're going to let them carry guns and be police officers, but our own American citizens can't carry firearms and can't be the police.
Right.
And somehow these illegal aliens are going to somehow do the job that we can't do. They're going to be more They're going to follow our laws better. They weren't brought up. I mean, it's absurd. We're watching Monty Python Bizarro World, watching Mad Magazine's version of the life we grew up with. And I know we're all going to make it through, but it's so strange to be in the middle of it.
Well, we're not going to fix the world, but I know what we can fix. We can fix the people that come into our world.
That's right.
And teach them correctly and how to defend themselves. And little by little, it starts getting, the puzzle starts connecting.
Yeah,
you look at us, we got Florida, we got Connecticut, we got California and Texas, and we're connected because of one thing and one thing only: pugilism. And that's what that mentality has to stick in there, because that mentality is covered by the Second Amendment. They always say the right to bear arms. Knives are also arms.
Yes.
And,
it doesn't say firearms. That's why when we started knife rights, when I first was doing it with Doug Ritter and saying, my big thing, my one guy's going, you got to make it based on the Second Amendment, because they had other knife protection groups. So it's become why it has it that knife rights openly says it's a Second Amendment right. We have the right to bear arms. Not people think it means firearms, but it's not. Our swords, our axes, our knives, our pocket sticks, we're allowed, because we're not supposed to have a standing army. We're a republic.
Right.
So everyone's supposed to be trained. So if the government says you got to fight a war, every American stands up and he's trained and has his right tools, because we don't need a standing army. I realize technology's gotten beyond that, and we have a standing army for a reason. But technically, we were founded on, we the people are the military. We don't have that's why it says you're not supposed to use an army in American soil. We're not supposed to have an army against us. We the people.
But I'm going to go ahead and because the time's running out, I want to thank each one of you for what you do. I want to thank each one of you, not only for being a friend, somebody that I consider a brother. Each one of you right here is family to me. And keep on teaching those around you in your areas, because that's the only way we can move this thing forward. And the issues with knives, I bring it back down to this. It is part of our Second Amendment. It is part of the arms that we are allowed to carry. And whether you use it or not in a self-defense situation, you should be protected by the Second Amendment. And I think that's something that everybody needs to understand. And I think any doctor of jurisprudence will agree with that.
I'd like to say one thing, what Mr. Carlito was saying. Tough times create tough people create soft times create soft people, and soft people create tough times. It's one big circle. He was spot on the money when he said that.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Again, each one of you. Be safe.
Thank you, Brother Paul. Thank you, Brother Peter. Thank you, Brother Carlito. Make sure I have a mailing address for each of you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Bram Frank, Mr. Carlito. I met you at Terry Dow's symposium.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we met there, but you were busy teaching, and then Terry pulled me off to have me go teach. But I wanted to hang out with you to learn some stick fighting and knife fighting, but I had to go the other way, and Terry put you in the other room. So
I would get to do that again.
Yeah, I apologize. I wish I spent more time with you. And Bram, everybody, your picture's hanging in my dojo, and everybody thought you were coming. I said you were coming. They're like,
I tried. It's been very hard for me.
I told him you had to go to show and you couldn't make it.
Yeah,
so
there you
understood.
Go. Well, hey, it's New Year's. By the way, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to you too.
You might have seen I put the Kopish on sale for New Year's and Yom Kippur.
Awesome.
Carlito, make sure you message me or that I get an address. You have
all right, buddy.
All righty, bro.
Peter's got big hands. Little hands.
Much peace.
Professor, thank you, my brother. Thank you.
I'll talk to you guys later, okay?
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Yep.